So here you go, write one that using now what we want to identify some element out of the form. So why not we'll take one text box here. Let's suppose name of the text box is name. Put inside a HTML tag so that it will not consider it like a C# command. Now here you go, and either you put at the rate, angle bracket input type equal to text, or you put at the rate HTML dot text box. This time we don't have any model in this view, so it should be text box. If it is model based view, it should be text box for. So should I name it as name? Okay. Name, or usually name is used as a keyword, so I will say txt name. Okay, and we'll have a button here. ID equal to something like btn submit, and name equal to btn submit, and value equal to submit. Just one small action we want to plan. On click of submit, I want to identify where is my text box, and from that text box using jQuery, I want to store in a variable. After that, whatever I want to do, I will do along with that conditional approach, or if it is validation, something like that. So first thing is how to detect any element with the help of these three approaches: by ID, by CSS class, and by HTML tag, right? So first we will go with ID, assuming that imagine this is a text box and this is another text box. I will take one more text box. So when to identify by ID? If each element should be identified separately, not as a group. Sometimes some actions you take as a group, right? Imagine I have 5 text boxes. You are saying do something on all 5 text boxes. That is called combined action. But if you want to take action on each text box separately, this is name. This may be, let's say, I will take it as course. Okay, txt course. So while collecting the data from name, I will not think about course. While collecting the data from course, I will not think about name. Right? So that time we will think that, okay, each individual element should be identified and collected the data separate variable. But if I have 2 paragraph or 2 text boxes or 2 div, whatever, now we say apply some style to both of them, or hide to both of them, or show to both of them, anything to both of them, apply some border to both of them. So this kind of action, suppose you want to take any action for both the text box or all the text box, something like that, then you have to think little different. Okay, so that also we'll see, but first we'll see which is most of cases we do, that is identifying each element by their ID and keeping in a separate variable, right? So let me go to our JavaScript area. This is the JavaScript area. So we'll write a script, not necessarily only head, you can write JavaScript in body also, no problem. Now here what I will do, I will do some jQuery functionality. Okay, so before typing the code, few things I want to tell you about jQuery functionality, how the syntax will work, and then we'll type the code. So first we are trying by ID, identify the element by ID using JQuery. Of course, using JQuery. Okay. One common difference between JavaScript and jQuery function is jQuery function is inbuilt. Chances of making mistake will be very less. But your own customized JavaScript function is all yours. You have to type your own, you have to take care, and if any mistake that you have to fix. So inbuilt function is always better than your own customized function. From that angle, we use jQuery, one reason. Second reason is, if many people are using same functionality, then why many people will define it again and again? Put it somewhere, give allocation to everybody. They will just drag it and use it. Reusability, we say, right? That is one more reason. One more big reason behind this is we have something called dynamic function activity. I'll tell you how the syntax is. If you are doing that dynamic function without any name of the function, you have to mention the function of the jQuery. If you are doing that, then it will understand. Who will understand? Com and decom of your browser. That one time compilation is required for this, and keep it in the com label. So you might have written some code, 10 line, 20 line. So if you are including that inside a dynamic function syntax, we say it as dynamic function in JavaScript, or we also said function without name. So if you are doing that, then what it will understand is one time activity for the compilation, because JavaScript also been compiled by com decom of the browser. It is not requiring to install any compiler, that's true, but kind of compiler we can say com and decom component that helps each JavaScript and HTML tag to be translated as per human understandable format. Like you wrote B for bold, then you write hi. After that you said B for bold close tag. So what does it mean as per HTML? Hi will be written along with bold letter. That is the meaning now. But if this line will come and display in the screen as it is, you will not be happy. You will say that this B for bold, somebody has to understand and display this hi with bold letter. Not that B and B will come on the screen and display, right? So who is understanding this B for bold and doing our hi as bold letter? Your command decom label of the component of the browser. Same thing applicable for JavaScript also. Suppose you wrote alert of something. Now who is understanding this script? I have not installed anything called JavaScript compiler. But after all it's English. So how my browser will understand? Definitely your com and decom is going to translate it into some alert. That means some notification on the screen. So command and what you see on the screen, in between who is working in the browser level, no any specific compiler, rather com and decom of the browser. So now coming to jQuery. So jQuery I can write some bunch of lines and I will say com and decom, saying that every time I run it, please compile it and then run it. I can write bunch of line in other way around. I will say I don't want to compile every time this, because this will be common every time. Time to time it is not changing or something. Code is not changing. Common code, compile once and keep it. So for that purpose we use something called dynamic function concept. So for that what you have to do, you have to define some attribute during load of the page. That means when my page will be loaded itself, that time I will instruct, if one time you compile it and keep it with you, and in future whenever that event will happen, one time, two time, 5 times, whenever that event will happen, during that no need to compile again and again, and just execute that jQuery functionality. That is one more beauty of jQuery over customized JavaScript. If you are writing customized JavaScript, whether you want or not, every time it will compile by command decom, and then it will try to execute it. So how to define those attributes syntactically on the load of the page, so that we can avoid compiling those codes again and again during the execution time. Compile, execute, something like that. Instead of that, we will say on the load of the page, please compile once, keep it, and whenever that event will happen, execute it. So for that, your syntax is like this. First of all, dollar, because every jQuery command will start with a dollar symbol, and here you have to write document, because your page is coming under the object called document. In custom JavaScript also we have used this. If you remember, document.get element by id. So that time get element by id is the function name and document was the object name. So whole page is represented by this document word. That means you are saying please go to the document, that means please go to the page and check if this function is executing. Ready means load. Okay, document.ready, that means one page will be loaded. Now I told you about the dynamic function concept. So here you define one dynamic JavaScript function. If you will say function f1, it become a regular function. But if you are saying function without any name, you are starting some bracket like this, then it is not a regular function, it is a dynamic function. Okay, then it will say, okay, if that is the case, then inside that function, what to do, write inside this curly bracket. Okay, so here whatever you write, whatever code you write, it will not compiled again and again. One time it will compile during load of the page, because I wrote this dynamic function inside the document.ready. So that ready is a function, guys, inbuilt function. Where it is available? It is available inside this jQuery library, right? So ready will help you. It's not like I wrote the ready that it will understand some special meaning or something. No, it is a function again. Everything that you write dot function name open bracket close bracket, that is a inbuilt function in the jQuery library. Now come here, inside that you are passing this like a parameter, and you are saying currently no need to execute this code. Currently just take it for your reference and compile once and keep it ready with you. Now when to execute this function, how to know? It will depend upon what attribute you are defining. Suppose I said there is one attribute called on click of the button number 1, on click of button number 1 called btn submit, it should do something. Okay, understand the skeletal structure first, then you can go little in depth for the validation and other purpose. So you want to do something on click of the button using jQuery. So I could have done it by JavaScript also. But if you are writing JavaScript custom function, then every time it has to be compiled and executed. So you define some attribute here saying that my attribute definition will start from here. So this is the document.load function. Inside you said please have some body, and inside this body of the function define some attribute so that it will understand what is the event, what is the action, what is the event, what is the action. Like that you will go on giving the attribute definition. Suppose one event is called click of the button. Which button? Now btn submit, that is called event. Action what? Now action is supposed to display something or to calculate something or to calculate as well as display something, whatever it is. So this time I can say my event is click event of this button, and action is collect the data from text box called txt name, or collect the data from text box called txt course and store in some variable. That is called action. See how we will plan it out. So again dollar, okay, within bracket. When you say event, event never happens on the air, right? Always it happens under some object. Button click, text box type or change, mouse you clicked it or key pressed it, you release the mouse. So whatever action, it is always based on some object. Now this time my object is btn submit, isn't it? My object is btn submit. In this object, on click event, I want to do something. So now here three things again. Should I detect it by dot? Dot means style sheet class name. Or should I detect it by ID? Or should I detect it by tag called input? HTML tag called input. Particularly this time I will use ID. Reason is, if I will use tag, then chances there 2-3 button is there. How can it understand which button? Even text box also may start from input tag also. So HTML tag is disqualified. Dot means your class file, CSS class. Imagine this button is using one class equal to something, C1. Who knows, another button also might be using class equal to C1. This is nothing but your style sheet class. So if I will detect by this style sheet class name, it will confuse whether button 1 or button 2. 1% chance will be there, na same style sheet can be used by other element also. So now remaining is to identify individually this button, unique identifier, I can use ID. So whenever you use ID, remember you have to use hash. Here I have written already. Whenever you want to use ID, you have to use hash. Whenever you use CSS class dot and tag means tag. So this time I am saying, please give a hash and then put that ID. Okay, understand the syntactical analysis here. After that, you will go and implement in the actual program. So, what does it mean? It is saying detect the button with the help of ID. Button or text box, I don't know, but detect something with the help of its ID. So, this much code, it will help to detect that button. After that, detecting what to do, what action you want, you are saying click. Click is a function again, guys. Okay, click is a function again. JQuery library function. Open bracket, close bracket. Now on the click up, currently I'm not clicking, na. I'm defining one attribute saying that whenever this button will be clicked, okay, there is something called I'm clicking and call it. And there is something called whenever this button will be clicked, do something. So that will be again through a dynamic function. So function, open bracket, close bracket, without any name, curly bracket, open and close, and coding will be here, whatever coding. Okay, now press enter, have some space here to write the coding. So on click of the button, what to do, that should be written here. So this curly bracket is closing here. This simple bracket is closing here. That means it's one defining attribute. So defining attribute is nothing but defining one event and mapping one action for that event. So here my event is click, object is btn submit, and action is whatever I'm going to write inside this dynamic function. So what I will do, on click of the button, what exactly you want to do? Suppose you want to detect that text box by ID again. Again, three way: detect by ID, detect by style sheet, detect by tag. So this time, chalo, I will take some other thing. Already here we detected by ID. I will take some action here which will need detect by CSS class. Imagine I have two paragraph tag or div tag here below. Okay. So I have some div below. Here I will write this is my div1. Just for example, I wrote some text inside this. Div for division. So here I gave some style class. Okay, something like this. Div, or sometimes you can give paragraph tag also if you have more, close with paragraph tag, give paragraph tag, doesn't matter. So here I will say class equal to something, C1. Okay, I assume that this C1 is in one class defined here somewhere. Okay, in the head area, like last class we did. Similarly, I have another paragraph. Okay, in the same solution I will tell you all three ways of detecting the element. So I have two paragraph. This paragraph is C1 also, this paragraph is C1 also. So this is div 2, div 2, div 2 or whatever. So now what you want to do is, on click of this button, you want to take one action for both of them. Okay. While collecting the name, I don't need to think about course because it is called individual identifier. So always you have to go for hash txt name, hash txt course. But this case, two paragraphs are there, and what I want is, on click of this button, I want to hide both of this paragraph. I want to hide both of these paragraphs. So action is hiding, event is button click, identifier is CSS class. Don't you think so? Why? Because multiple element I want to take that action, right? So multiple element cannot have multiple different ID. So I should not identify by ID. Either I will identify by class name if really both of them they have implemented same class name, or if there are 10 to 12 paragraphs and somebody says that all paragraph you take some action, then I can use tag also directly, P itself. That means if all the paragraph has to be taken same action in this page, including this one, line number 22 also a paragraph, line number 25 also a paragraph. So is it like I want to hide this also, and this label also? No, I want to hide only these two. So if I want to hide only these two, I can hide by class name. Not all the paragraphs, but couple of paragraphs or bunch of paragraphs. But if I want to say no, only this paragraph I want to hide, then I have to give some ID here. ID equal to maybe pp1 or something. Then I will say, please identify only this pp1 and then hide it, or change the color, or do something, or show it if it is not there. Anything, any action, right? Three labels: identify, single, identify, group by, identify all of this page. So all of this page means tag. Some of these elements is class file, and only one element by identification means hash. So this time already hash I used to identify this button. Okay, already I used identify to button. Chalo, one more thing I will do. On click of this button, I will collect this text box name, whatever you have typed, and store in a variable. There you will use what? Hash, because it is has to be identified by single ID. ID will be txt name. So I can say declare a variable, and what is our code? We are writing in the notepad currently. Okay, so I will say dollar. Okay, first left side I will say var let's say nn for name equal to dollar. Okay, so I want to identify by text box by ID, so hash this dot. Now are you taking an action on the text box, or you are collecting just the value? If you are taking some action like change action, click action, focus is one action, blur is one action, so those are all action, means something to do. But on click or on change, I'm not going to do anything. I will say whatever already typed, collect that value. Okay, so there is a function called val. Okay, and you have to just call that function. So what it will do, it will identify this text box by hash means ID. Then it will say that acha, I got it. What value is typed? Suppose ABC 1 2 3. So that ABC 1 2 3 will pick and store in n. So this is called identify the element by ID. One more, in the same button click, what I want there are two paragraph and both of the paragraph are using same class file, CSS class file. Detect by CSS class file both the paragraphs and hide them. So what I will do, I will say dollar again. Okay, dollar. This time instead of hash, I will say dot. Why? Because CSS class. So couple of things or bunch of things you want to do same action, then you have to use that technique. So dot, what is my CSS class name here? Suppose C1. Just example I am taking. You assume that this C1 is a class available here. You know, at the top somewhere here, you have some style already. Like last class we did. Imagine that you have already C1, and inside that C1 you have some, style already. Just think it that way. Acha, if you don't have it also, it will not show error. Remember, particularly for this purpose also, you can take some fake class name. Okay, really not available. You took some fake class name. Possible, not show error, and it will behave also as it is expected. But assume that you have it already. Okay, so now you come here. You say dot C1. Okay, dot C1, and you are saying there is a function called hide, guys. If I want to hide them. So this action will be taken for all those elements whose class file is C1, 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 C1. Regardless it is a paragraph or a text box or a div or whatever. Okay. This is called applying or identifying more than one element to apply some action. And this is called identify only single element by ID to apply some action. Okay. Now come to the all the things, that is called dot. Um, what I will do, this time it is paragraph. I will take something like this, uh, just for example. I will not disturb this paragraph and all. I will take few more things. Suppose I will take some div now. Okay, so this is, here I will say paragraph 1, and here I will say paragraph 2, so that you can identify what is it. Okay. Similarly, I will have some div. Suppose this is my div 1. Okay. Why div 1? I will take one more paragraph. Paragraph 3. Let me plan something. Okay. So paragraph 3 I have. Now this time one more button I want to click, not the submit button. If submit button will be clicked, I want all 3 paragraphs should be hidden. Okay. But one more button I will click. I will take one more button here somewhere. Let's say here I have one more button. Input type equal to submit. ID equal to btn hide or hide all. Name equal to btn hide all. And can you guys mute please? Value equal to, I will say hide all. Alright. So here what I want, if somebody is clicking the second button, then whatever paragraph there in this page, all of those paragraphs should be hidden. Suppose on click of this, or why not, we'll take one more button, all the action plan will make separately. This is called hide all. This is called hide P1 and P2, and this is called submit. As of now, for this hide P1 P2, I have this attribute. Which attribute? This attribute. Okay, and one more attribute. One document.ready can have multiple attribute also. So here first attribute I will say btn submit. On btn submit, please collect that name and store it. Okay, this is identified by a single element. This is identified by style sheet, multiple elements, and one more document, one more attribute I will define under same document ready, that identify by tag. So here you go and write P. But make sure you don't want these things. So now if I will apply this, what will happen? If you see here NAME, that is also P. COIURAC, that labels, that is also P. So what I will do, I will just change it to something else. Suppose I will say H2 or H3. Okay, so that only required elements I will hide. So these all three paragraphs you want to hide, then I will hide by P, because P indicates all the tags. Okay, but that I have to write this way. So P, no hash, no dot, simply some alphabet. Suppose I wrote body, then it will understand body tag. I wrote div, it will understand all div tag of this page. I wrote P, all paragraph tag of this page, right? Sorry, I'm writing here. I'm supposed to write here actually. And here as usual your hidden two or third button, whatever it is. So your third button name is btn hide all. So here you go and write hash btn hide all. Here I'm talking about, okay? Your action is this one, not this one. So identify all elements of same page. Okay, so this is the core formula of applying any jQuery library function. Okay, so technique. After that, how much experience you will get, how many jQuery inbuilt functions you know, that is a different story. Did I delete something by mistake? So this is curly bracket close for this, and this is simple bracket close for this. That's it. So how to identify by single element, how to identify by class file, that means multiple elements, and how to identify all elements. That is one thing we missed, I think, this curly bracket. Acha, already it is there. So let me take little up. So have a look. This you should not miss. So starting curly bracket and simple bracket is closed at the end, and each attribute, its opening tag and closing tag will be along with that. So here it is opening, here it is closing, here it is opening, here it is closing, like that. And the very beginning one, it is closing here. That means inside that document or ready function, whatever attribute you have defined, all those attributes will be compiled only one time during your load of the page, and then it will kept by the component object model. every time you are refreshing the page or clicking some button again reloading the page, anything is happening, it will not compile this code again and again. Okay, it will be keeping one time compilation, and as long as you are not leaving that page, once suppose you left that page and then go to some other page and coming to this page again, okay, hard boot, we are saying hard boot, right? We left that page, it's not like by taking some action we are refreshing the page, we already left that page, maybe after 15-20 minutes we visited this page, that page and all, and again we are coming back to this page. That time of course it might have disposed all these things and it will compile it again. But as long as you are in that page and you are not leaving that page, if you are taking multiple times of the same action, 3 times I click that button or 5 times I click this button, so it will not compile the code again and again. So from that point of view, you can say this is faster than normal, our custom JavaScript code. I will implement this, then we'll see how it is happening. I will just copy it and paste it there. We'll see if any syntactical error we have done, that will fix it, and then we'll execute it. So come here, I will put it here. Okay, make sure that you have used that jQuery link and check it out if anywhere anything red color underline or anything it's showing. Now you compile it once, build it once, and then start executing. Taking some time. Yeah, build is over. Now let's put one alert message here just to know that during load of the page it is coming or not. Okay, and just I will say page loaded or something. Acha, this has to be also included inside a script tag, huh? Don't forget that. Suppose on the load of the page you want to display something, so you can say ABCD whatever just to check it is coming inside, or page loaded, something like that you can write. And on click of the button you want to check whether it is coming here, you can say something like this is which button, submit button. I will say submit button clicked as a first time tracker. Okay, then I will delete it. One more thing, return to return false part. This time do I have really some controller and on click of any button I want to really go there with some HTTP post function? Answer is no. We don't have any action in the C# side this time. So what I will do, for every attribute I will write return false, return false. By default it is return true. So I just write return false in every attribute definition here. Okay, return false I will just include no condition, nothing, return false. That means don't return back to controller, I'm saying. If you have proper validation and all, then that time you have to write some if else condition, and inside that if else you have to initialize some variable to track whether to return back to controller or not to return back. But this time I don't want to go to controller, so I hard coded it to return false everywhere. Make sense? Here you need not to call anything explicitly, because your attribute definition will make you understand, not make you understand, it will make compiler, which we say component object model, will understand that in future whenever this button will be clicked, by the way, then this bunch of code which you have already compiled and kept it with you, please execute that. Okay. Here one more line I will write on the first button click, alert, name is nn. Okay, just simple code I have written only to track event action and difference it in using dot, using hash and using tag. So that's it. Let's run it. So my controller has to be first controller, and index action method has to be first index action method, and then it will come here and it should behave as we expect. Semicolon is optional in case of alert, but if you want you can give it. Some browser may make it mandatory, so better to give it, but not mandatory for all browser. Assume that there are 3 paragraphs available here. Acha, can you see this alert message? Just I kept it to understand that it is going inside that, and I will delete it later. Here you go. In fact, here also you have to write return false. If you see, this is also one more function opening, line number 26, and it is closing in line number 56, right? So imagine you are not clicking the button, just you are saying load the page. So during load of the page also every time, it should not search and go to controller again and again. So that time you can write here also line number 55 return false. Okay. So that it will never go to the controller. Now come to this page. 3 things we did. On button click 1, first button click, we said identify the element by hash. That means please pick the name and display it. So suppose I will say this is ABCDEFGH something. I click on submit. It should pick that name and it will store in that variable and display me. Absolutely. First alert message also happening, and after collecting the name into variable, that variable also displaying. Just I put some alert to identify and to test it whether it is expecting whatever we are expecting, it is working that way. Second button click, what we have kept? We have kept there are 2 paragraph P1 and P2 out of 3. Both of them they are using same style. Based on that style sheet, I want to hide both of them. So click it here. Okay. So did it hide paragraph number 2? No. Paragraph 1 and 2, not 3. Not 3. 1 and 2, but not 3. Why? Because in second button click, if you see in your definition of attribute, you have said on second button click, whoever is having C1 as the class file, please hide them. Today I am using hide function, tomorrow you may use some other function based on your requirement. The approach and what do you say, process is similar. On which you want, that is called event. What you want, click or button click or change or what, that is called event function. So event object, event function, and inside that what action you want to take, that is called action, dynamic function action. So whole together all 3 we set as defining attribute. So if you have already kept define attribute, one time compilation happened already, it has kept. How many times you want to click that button, click it, it will not compile again and again. So identify by hash we checked, identify by style sheet also we checked. Now identify the element by tag itself, paragraph tag. Okay, paragraph tag. So what I will do, I will reload this page again so that all 3 paragraphs will be shown. to check whether all three paragraph it is really working or not. So click on hide all. Okay, so when I'm clicking hide all, it is identifying all the paragraph and hiding. When I'm saying hide P1 and P2, that time it is only identifying those who are having C1 as a class name. Now on top of this, if you want to gain extra knowledge in jQuery, somebody says I have 5 years experience, somebody says I have 10 years experience. So process and steps exactly same. Only thing what they know new thing extra is, today suppose you got to know about 3 to 4 function. Click is one function, hide is one function, val is one function, show is one function, alert is one function. So some couple of functions you learn today. As per your experience, you may learn more and more functions in order to add into your jQuery profile, that I know this, I know that, etc. Otherwise, if you say process of using jQuery, this is the process overall. So time to time, when you will work more and more things, little extra syntax, little extra functions you are going to learn, of course, based on the requirement. I will give one work to you, try it out yourself. There is a function called date picker. Okay, there is a function called date picker, DATEPICKER, date picker. Okay, you take a text box, okay, and what you do is attach that date picker function to your one of the text box. Imagine your text box is here I have taken name and course, right? You take one text box called date of birth or something. Okay, so what I want, on the load of the page, not on the click of the button, rather on the load of the page. So when we say load of the page, understand that this is the area where I have written line number 28, right? So here you have to write that what I am saying, so that on the load of the page that will applicable. So you have to understand little also where, when, how, all three things. So on the load of the page, I want my text box called txt.dob, date of birth, should be attached with a function called date picker, so that if I will click that text box, it should automatically populate the calendar. Okay, and I will select it from calendar, not typing the date of birth. One is called type it, just like general text box. One is called jQuery calendar, you use it. So for jQuery calendar, the function name I am telling from my side, it is date picker, DATEPICKER. Currently you don't pass any argument, simply call it. Okay, so that whichever the default style, default current date and time, month, currently suppose December is going on, so it will automatically open December. I don't want any extra special condition there. So first you try the simple one. So date picker, DATEPICKER, open bracket, close bracket, semicolon, that is jQuery function that has to be attached with some text box when page will be loaded. And so that if I will click that, text box, that jQuery calendar should be opened, and I will select some date, it should be taken against that txt name, or what is that, txt date of birth, and it should collect in the controller and supply to the database, something like that you try. Okay, so use the jQuery function date picker to display jQuery calendar for a text box called txt date of birth, and attached during load of the page. Because somebody will not say na ki on click of the some button only you display the calendar. No, you say that on the load of the page itself you attach that date picker with that text box, and so that the moment I will click that text box, that date picker will automatically fire. So if this is the requirement, how to identify first of all, you know, by ID or by class file or by tag, that you have to decide. If you decided, then which action, load action or click action or what action, on which event, on what action, and what code to be written to call that function. So these things you yourself try, and then we will see. Okay, that is a small homework. And taking this concept into account, you can apply validations also. When we say validation, like last class using custom JavaScript we did, right? If else condition, etc. That also applicable here. Everything, if else loop if necessary, array if necessary, whatever programming concept, everything is applicable here as well. Like somebody says on click of the button submit, I want all the validations to be checked. Okay, so you can call this, like instead of saying document dot ready, document dot get element by id, this way you can collect the data. And if else condition you can carry on here also, no problem. So not necessarily in JavaScript, custom JavaScript only you can write if else. Here also you can write if else directly. Okay, since it is head area, script area, no need to write add the rate also anything, because it's not C sharp. It is your JavaScript function if condition. So I can say if nn dot length so and so, then do this, otherwise do that. All these things can also be applicable here. So second homework, whatever we have done already using custom JavaScript, some small validation we might have done, that you have to do using JQuery now. Same rule and regulation, only you have to decide, I have to use hash or tag or dot. If that is the case, then what will the code to collect the data and store it, and then put if else condition. So whatever you tried validation using custom JavaScript, try the same using JQuery. Okay, 2-3 test bugs we have taken last class or last to last class. We applied some custom JavaScript function to check whether client side validation is correct or not correct. After that only, then we went to model annotations and all that. So currently don't focus on model annotations. On the client server, client side only, return false if any of the at least one element is invalid. Okay, return false if at least one element is invalid. You can try this because you already understood the syntax of jQuery. So using the syntax easily you can try it out. All right. Any question? Manasa, you have raised the hand. Any question? Mm. Mm-hmm. Dollar is the identifier for the jQuery coding, and that is custom JavaScript coding. This is for inbuilt library dollar. Manish, Bahubali. Not that it will show, but yeah, up to certain extent it will show. Not like C sharp class library, but yeah, up to certain extent it will show. You can customize. You have to give additional parameter, but it will take always your host name basically. Currently, since your host is local host, it is taking. Otherwise, that will take that name basically. Swati, we will do. Anybody else? Any other question on this? Okay. Now, yeah, Manish, you're asking something? No, your voice is not correct, properly audible. Can you repeat that? What you said? Now, totally not audible. Are you speaking? Acha, that you Google it. Your Microsoft site MSTN will give you. At the rate HTML. No, not able to understand. Something you are asking about at the rate HTML dot something, but totally not audible.